Bonjour, hello, and welcome to qualifying around the circuit Paul Ricard for the French Grand Prix of 2022. This is the tight, technical track of a lot of high-speed corners, so let's see what our drivers can do around this historic circuit. Here's your practice report heading into the French Grand Prix weekend. Practice 1, Keita Watanabe looking to capitalize still on that good form he showed in Canada after that race win. However, his teammate Yuki Tsunoda is very far down the order. We were treated to some rain in practice too. Keita Watanabe up into 4th on the intermediate tire, so he looks very quick around this track, and this is also a circuit that the Japanese driver really likes to drive around. However, Yuki Tsunoda once again is looking to struggle a little bit. Toyota setup this weekend, it's going to be dry, however, there's no rain really forecast, and due to some technical problems, they weren't able to participate in FP3. They bring a front downforce upgrade along with a reliability upgrade, but they still find themselves only 6th in the pecking order, with a lot of room to make up as the teams really tighten on the development race. Keita Watanabe on his outlap now. Let's see what he can do. He looked very quick throughout qualifying, and he spins! And he spins on his outlap, and this is kind of a common trend from the last race, but I guess if you spin in qualifying, you do well in the race, so let's see what he can do. Through turn 15 now. A little wide on the exit. Let's see what he can do. Heading towards the line. DRS wide open, crosses it. It's good for P3. Now with the sun shining and the clouds parting over the circuit, Paul Ricard, Keita Watanabe is a purple second sector, and he's up by about 8/10 as he crosses the finish line, and that puts him P5. So not a bad time overall, but 5/10 off from the lead drivers. And Yuki Tsunoda just barely makes it through into the session in P16, so he's got a lot of work to make up if he wants to capitalize and match his teammates' pace. And the skies grow dark over the circuit. Now Keita Watanabe on the medium tires, a little audacious from the Japanese drivers. He crosses the line, but it's only good for P13. Now on a new set of soft tires, he's up by about 9/10. He loses a bit of time through the last corner, probably due to the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz and a wash of dirty air, but he's also going to get a slipstream down his main straight. He's up by over a second, and he puts himself into P2, 2/100ths of a second behind Lewis Hamilton. So Keita Watanabe does have the pace to really capitalize. And shock horror, Valtteri Bottas is out in Q2, and Yuki Tsunoda as well, down in the bottom 6. Through the final corner, Keita Watanabe goes. Can he put up the lap that he put up last time around? He goes a little wide again through turn 15, and that's going to really compromise his lap. Lando Norris puts up a 128.2, and Watanabe is at the bottom. Now again, purple first sector, green in the set middle. As he goes 8/10 up, he's a little tighter through the final corner. He's down on his time, but he's up by a second a lap. Can he go over the line? What can he do? And it's good enough for P4. So not bad overall. Lando Norris puts up a stonking lap time up into P3. But Keita Watanabe is going to have a lot of work to do if he wants to try and make up some places. But if he can repeat his form in Canada, he's surely going to have a good race on hand. Bonjour mes amis, and welcome here to the circuit Paul Ricard here in the beautiful French countryside for the 2022 French Grand Prix. We've been treated to some historic French Grand Prix in the past around various circuits, including Magny-Cours and this very circuit dating back to the beginning of the 1900s. But now here we are, we're ready to go racing here in arguably the birthplace of motorsport. And here's the circuit Paul Ricard. Very complex layout. Many possible layouts around this circuit, but this is the one we race Formula 1 cars around here since 2018. 15 corners, a lot of high-speed straights, including the Mistral straight, which leads to good overtaking opportunities into the chicane. And let's see what our drivers can do this time around this circuit. And here we are onto the starting grid once again, and Lewis Hamilton and has been putting up some decent form in these last few races to help aid his title challenge, but his title rival Max Verstappen is really ramping up the heat. Not much separating these two. And down in P3, Keita Watanabe, he won the last race. What can he do this weekend? Here's your starting grid for the French Grand Prix of 2022. Let's see where we go. Lewis Hamilton in P1, and Keita Watanabe gets a front row start again after some grid penalties send some of the front runners behind him. Perez 3rd, Vettel 4th, Daniel Ricciardo 5th, and Sainz 6th. Fernando Alonso 7th, Charles Leclerc in P8th, Stroll 9th, and Valtteri Bottas gets promoted after a torrid qualifying in 10th. Max Verstappen gets a grid penalty. Down the grid he goes alongside Pierre Gasly, Lando Norris as well, alongside Esteban Ocon, Yuki Tsunoda 15th, Giovinazzi 16th, both Alfa Romeos in 17th and 18th, and Raikkonen and Sato. Mick Schumacher 19th, Russell 20th, Latifi 21st, and Nikita Mazepin down in 22nd. Now Keita Watanabe's on the front row. Can he repeat a win? Let's see what he can do and what the other drivers can do around the French Grand Prix. Here we go, the 5 red lights on the circuit, Paul Ricard, sunny skies. What can the drivers do? Here we go, it's lights out, and away we go. And it's a good start from the Toyota, but it's a very good start from the Mercedes as well. And Aston Martin, Sebastian Vettel, and Sergio Perez all alongside. It looks like it could be 3 wide into turn 1. Here we go, Hamilton gets the corner, and there might have been contact between Watanabe and Vettel, but here we go, Watanabe holds his place. Looking at the race start now. And Watanabe gets a great start, no wheel spin, but gets a little bogged down in the second phase. That's where Hamilton really steps it up. And Perez down the inside, and there's Vettel, and Watanabe forces Vettel off. I think it's just an instance of not really checking his mirrors. There wasn't really an intent to force him off the road. I think that was just him trying to take the natural racing line, because he's trying to go on the outside, as you can see, but I don't think he realizes Vettel is behind him. And the Aston Martin is very lucky to not get more wing damage from that contact. I don't think there's any malicious intent behind it. However, Vettel will be very displeased as he was forced down a few places, but Perez gets a compromise line as well, so he retains P3 at the very least.
He didn't leave the space. I could have easily given him a puncture.
That's a line we've heard back in 2014. And here goes Sergio Perez down the inside. He gets a way better start than the Toyota, but he gets squeezed in by Hamilton, who's taking the natural racing line. No, he goes right into the side of Daniel Ricciardo, which could have been, well, there's maybe some front wing damage for the McLaren, who might have to pit. That's terrible for the Australian driver. And yeah, Perez, however, gets very compromised. And here goes Sergio Perez now, closing in on the Aston Martin. Aston Martin have put up a good car in these new regulations, but the Red Bull just a little bit better. Down the Mistral straight with DRS wide open, and that is an easy move for Sergio Perez, who can now focus on Keita Watanabe, who's closing up to Lewis Hamilton. And here goes Keita Watanabe in for a very early pit stop. This is definitely going to be a 2-stop race, and that's a very aggressive strategy from Toyota. The 2-stopper on Paul Ricard is very, very gutsy, because the 1-stop and the undercut is very powerful around this circuit, as we discovered back last year when Keita Watanabe pulled off a 1-stop to try to make it up back into the points. So let's see what he can do. A very sharp cut into the pit lane, onto the medium compound tires. It's a very slow stop from the boys and girls down at Toyota Racing, and he's just going to finish right in front of Mick Schumacher in the Haas, but he's going to have a lot of grip in those medium compound tires to make up the gap and when the others pit. Here he goes, he's closing up to this train of cars led by his old teammate Marino Sato, who's holding up Nikita Mazepin and the Williams. Here we go, heading down to Mistral Straight. Oh, that's a beautiful move. The grip is so there for the Toyota driver. He's able to just maneuver around the driver. Here we go, down to Mistral Straight, DRS wide open. Latifi defends the inside, into the chicane. Watanabe sees the opening, dabs a bit of throttle around the outside, and that's a beautiful move around the Williams. And undoubtedly, he gets into the slipstream of Marino Sato, alongside of George Russell and the other Williams. It's going to be 3 wide, heading into the fast, high-speed turn 10. This surely won't work. One of them's going to have to back out, and none of them are backing out. Here we go. No, Sato spins around. And that's almost going to certainly cause a safety car if he's in a dangerous position. But Sato just manages to keep it out of the wall, and Watanabe up into 12th. Let's look at this replay, and this is going to cause some drama. Remember, Sato and Watanabe were teammates last year, and now driving for Alfa Romeo. Oh, let's see here. Watanabe, I think he goes really tight because he's on the inside for the turn. And I think he realizes that if he goes any further out, he's going to be on track limits. And he just taps the right end plate of the Alfa Romeo, who gets a little unbalanced, but George Russell really caused most of the damage there, because rather than just a tap on the wheel, it was a tire on tire in an awkward angle, and that definitely just was enough to spin the car around. I think it's a racing incident. There was no real intent, because Watanabe knew that, and there wasn't really anywhere else to go. I think if he slowed down, it would have been even more dangerous, but Sato, the unfortunate bystander in this incident, and here we go. Norris pits. And so all the drivers on the soft compound tires are pitting for mediums right now. Whether that'll be their final stop of the race, that's yet to be seen. But Watanabe makes up the places and now can close in on Kimi Raikkonen. Closing in, purple first sector for the Toyota driver. Closing in on the Alfa Romeo. DRS, ERS, Raikkonen with nothing to defend against. And that is a textbook overtake for Keita Watanabe. And Lance Stroll, Kato Watanabe closing in on the Aston Martin, who's been driving very well, but he's going very slow. Oh, and there's smoke right in the face of Kato Watanabe, and that is very unfortunate, as now Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin having put up some good laps, and his teammate looking very good as well. However, now he's out of the French Grand Prix with an engine failure in the main straight. Surely that'll be a safety car, but the FIA don't seem to be looking to push for one right now. Look at that train of cars led behind, but Stroll down the straight, trying to stay off the racing line and pulling off at the nearest opportunity. Oh, and there's contact between Kimi Räikkönen and Sergio Perez. Let's look at this. And oh yeah, Räikkönen just doesn't see Perez there on the inside, and that's very costly for Perez. After a DNF in the Canadian Grand Prix, he's going to be looking to bounce back here in France. However, that little contact is taken off the right end plate, and definitely is going to mean a penalty, an extra pit stop. And Perez is not happy about that at all. It's going to be a painful lap. Closing in on Esteban Ocon, the hometown favorite here. In the hometown favorite team, Alpine, the French team, powered by a French engine. But it's surely going to be easy work for Japanese power, as Watanabe slips out from behind Esteban Ocon. DRS down the straight, braking a little later into turn 1. Missing the apex just by a hair, but that's enough to stay ahead. And now Watanabe can focus on Antonio Giovinazzi. Oh, Ocon goes wide, and Ocon is coming back at him, heading down into turn 5, into turn 3, pardon me. And here we go, side by side, still with the Alpine. He gets the inside line, gets a little bit more grip on the acceleration, and there is a beautiful move. He finishes the move and now can focus on Antonio Giovinazzi. And Giovinazzi pits now. I think this is his first pit stop. He's stayed on those medium compound tires for a long time. And Tsunoda ahead, running a very good race, very inauspicious race, and he pits for hard compound tires as well. Bottas pits for hard compound tires, and so Watanabe can now close in on Lewis Hamilton. And here we go, closing in on Hamilton. DRS, ERS, down the Mistral straight. Here, and let's see what he can do. He's closing. Hamilton tries to defend the inside, but Watanabe looks so powerful on the outside here, pulling some amazing moves, and he goes very late on the brakes, and that is a textbook overtake for the Japanese driver up into P1. So it looks like he could capitalize on this form he showed in Montreal, but can he hold on to this position? He does have another pit stop to make. Let's look at this replay again. There you see Hamilton defends the inside, but without DRS down this long straight, slipstream additionally with the DRS, and that is this very easy move. And Watanabe just manages to keep it on despite late braking. And here goes Watanabe into the pits for his second pit stop, probably into another set of medium compound tires, and that's surely going to give him a lot of mechanical grip. Lewis Hamilton follows in behind, so that means Valtteri Bottas, having come from P10 and having qualified in P12, will make up a lot of places in the dying stages of this race, and that is going to look very well for him. Still looking for the champion of last year, still looking for his first win of the 2022 season after some torrid luck and some unfortunate circumstances. It's a very slow pit stop from the Toyota boys and girls, but he still manages to stay ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Can he stay ahead of Carlos Sainz? There is a very large gap between him and the Ferrari, as the Ferrari is down now, just entering down the start-finish straight, but Watanabe stays up into P2. Closing in on Valtteri Bottas now. Those medium compound tires at this stage of the race is going to be way grippier than Bottas' hard compound. Let's see what he can do down the main straight. DRS and ERS deployed. He's in the slipstream of Valtteri Bottas. He's closing. He's going to pull out down the inside of the straight, but Valtteri Bottas just manages to keep the foot in. They're side by side still into turn 2. This is some cracking racing. Watanabe goes off of the track a little bit, but he's still behind Valtteri Bottas. They're side by side into turn 3. There's no DRS here. This is going to be some old school racing down the outside. It turns into the inside for turn 3, and he makes the move past Valtteri Bottas, and that is some side by side racing we really love. Look at this move. Down the DRS was only really crucial in the first phase, as Bottas still manages to keep his foot in. And remember, the outside of a chicane turns into the inside for the second part of it. So Bottas is able to really fight back, and the Mercedes does have superior pace over that Toyota. But Watanabe just placing his car perfectly and defending the apex to keep the position. Here on the penultimate lap, Watanabe's been leading, but Bottas he's been catching up slowly. So has the medium compound tires been worn off too quickly? There is some high tire degradation on the circuit. So has Watanabe thrown his chance for the win by fighting too hard? Comes Bottas on the hards. He's been deploying a lot of battery down into turn 12, and then you don't see moves there, but that is a beautiful move by Valtteri Bottas to retake the lead of the French Grand Prix. Look at this move, as you can see, down the inside, and were there track limits there? He looks like he goes beyond the white line, so surely that can be investigated by the stewards, but it's so hard to know. Bottas is very happy by that move. However, I wouldn't be so quick because the stewards could investigate. As you can see, there's a brief instant where you can debate whether he's gone beyond the white line, and the stewards say no further investigation. He was our championship leader. He was often criticized to be the second driver down at Mercedes. Last year, he proved he was number one. He's yet to show any of that form since last year, but after an amazing drive, tire conserving on hard compound, Valtteri Bottas, it's oui monsieur for the Finn as he goes across the line to win the French Grand Prix, his first win of the season and a true step in his championship campaign. And while Watanabe will be disappointed by the FIA's decision not to investigate the track limits, he does get a very solid P2 for his efforts. And Bottas celebrating his first win, and Watanabe always being the good sport. He may not agree with the FIA's decision, but he cannot fault Bottas for taking the move, and that is a beautiful sportsmanship from the Japanese driver. P1 for Valtteri Bottas, P2 for Watanabe, and Lewis Hamilton couldn't convert pole to the win, but will take P3 for his championship efforts. Max Verstappen only able to gain one place off 11th. Paul Ricard is a very hard track to overtake around despite the slipstream effect down the Mistral Straight, so it is going to be hard. Antonio Giovinazzi, a very solid P5 in the AlphaTauri, outpacing his teammate for the first time this season. He's going to be very happy with that after his torrid start to the season as well. Lando Norris down the order as well. Disappointing he couldn't convert third after that engine penalty, but his teammate Daniel Ricciardo, a very good result for McLaren Racing. Esteban Ocon as well carries the hometown favorite to P6. And Lewis Hamilton overtakes Max Verstappen for the lead of the championship by 8 points. And Watanabe is closing up. But Valtteri Bottas also only 3 points behind the Japanese drivers. So Bottas, now his championship campaign can really begin. And Mercedes, with that very good double podium, passes Red Bull for the Constructors' Championship, up by 34 points. A big gap for the Red Bulls to cross. But Valtteri Bottas, this man, is going to celebrate tonight as he can reignite perhaps a late championship charge, as there are many races still left to go. We're nearing the halfway point in the season, and it's been great for all drivers on this grid. And we go to Austria next, the Red Bull Ring. Let's see what Red Bull can do there. Goodbye.